Welcome to this explainer. Today we are breaking down something absolutely fascinating. It's honestly incredible to watch what happens when a single explosive sports moment suddenly morphs into something way, way bigger than basketball itself. We're going to look at how a literal 3-second play in a WNBA game escalated into a massive, unavoidable cultural debate. We'll separate the hard on-court facts from the wild internet fiction that followed. Because think about it. How does a hard foul, a heated confrontation, and a single social media post inexplicably end up dragging one of the biggest names in basketball into the chaos? Well, today we're mapping out exactly how that happens. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll start with the 3-second spark, move into the social media explosion, do a little fact-checking on Steph Curry, and finally put basketball under the microscope.
So, Section 1, the 3-second spark. This right here is the absolute epicenter of the controversy. Our explainer begins on August 8th during a highly anticipated, seriously intense matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. Now, I want you to think about how incredibly fast this whole thing went down. It's wild how quickly things can escalate, right? In second 1, Sophie Cunningham aggressively attacks the basket. By second 2, DiJonai Carrington comes across defensively, and her arm makes heavy, undeniable contact with Cunningham's head and jaw area, sending her crashing hard to the floor. And by the third second, the officials have already stepped in to review the play. In literally 3 seconds, we went from a standard competitive drive to a heated physical confrontation where teammates and officials actually had to step in and physically separate the players. The emotional temperature in that arena skyrocketed instantly. It didn't just look like competitive basketball anymore. In that fleeting moment, it looked deeply personal.
So after the intense on-court review, the officials made their call. The play resulted in Carrington being ejected with a flagrant 2 foul. Let's just clarify exactly what that means here. A flagrant 2 foul is a ruling by the officials that physical contact is serious enough to warrant the immediate ejection of a player from the game. The WNBA's job is to make sure players know exactly where the line of physical play is drawn, and handing out a flagrant 2, well, that sends a very clear, unambiguous message about exactly where that line sits. Now, at this point, you'd probably expect the story to just end right there, right? A hard foul, an ejection, maybe a post-game fine, and we all move on. But instead, everything was about to get so much more intense. What happens next brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect we see in modern sports culture. Because on one hand, the actual basketball story from that night was amazing. The Fever went on to win a really hard-fought game 90-86. Caitlin Clark put together a monster performance, dropping 26 points and dishing out 11 assists. Kelsey Mitchell kept up her incredible scoring run with another huge 20-point game. These are phenomenal basketball stories, absolutely worth celebrating. But while all that incredible athleticism was happening on the hardwood, the internet story immediately pivoted to something else entirely. Instead of celebrating stats, the conversation just abruptly shifted to race, politics, player history, and celebrity rumors. The original basketball play was almost entirely swallowed up by the noise. Which brings us to Section 2, the social media explosion. Let's see how we moved from basketball to a full-blown cultural discourse.
Just sticking strictly to the facts from our sources here, this is what ignited the massive online debate. After being ejected, Carrington posted the words "white privilege" on social media, and that statement instantly created a massive secondary controversy. Fans, commentators, you name it, everyone immediately began fiercely debating whether Carrington was suggesting that race played a fundamental role in how her foul was handled by the refs. Now, it's absolutely crucial to note that Carrington did later clarify the statement. She explained she wasn't saying the foul itself was an example of white privilege. Rather, her post was meant to be part of a larger conversation, noting she had spoken with people who could help push future change. But you know the internet, crucial context is almost always lost to speed. The damage was done. We weren't talking about a basketball foul anymore. We were in the middle of a sweeping cultural debate.
Now, on the other side of this highly visible incident, Sophie Cunningham firmly rejected applying a racial lens to the event. Her stance was anchored on the fact that she herself had previously been ejected for a very similar type of physical play in the past. She argued that the league's response should be judged strictly by the actions taking place on the court, rather than by the identities of the players involved. Look, both players are highly visible, and both are known across the league as fiercely aggressive competitors with distinct public images. And with the social media comments throwing gasoline on the fire, fans on both sides dug their heels in. They were deeply entrenched in their respective positions. At this point, the debate was entirely out of the WNBA's control. Let's look at Section 3, fact-checking Steph Curry, because this is exactly where the rumor mill takes over.
If you were anywhere near social media during this time, you definitely saw the viral headlines screaming about Steph Curry. Obviously, Curry is one of basketball's biggest global stars and a huge, vocal supporter of the women's game. But suddenly, the internet was absolutely flooded with claims demanding to know if he truly went nuclear over this single WNBA foul. Think about how wild that is for a second. The rumor mill completely took over, framing the debate as if an NBA superstar had dropped everything to publicly take a side in a regular season matchup between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever.
But here is the stark, undeniable reality. There is absolutely zero verified report of Steph Curry making a public rant about this incident. None. It was 100% dramatic framing by fans and online aggregators, literally just imagining what a global star might say, with absolutely no verified statements backing it up. And honestly, I think that makes the story even more fascinating. The fact that fans immediately imagined what someone like Curry might say and then treated it as legitimate headline news tells us something profound about the current environment surrounding the WNBA. The appetite for drama is so incredibly high right now that the internet will literally just invent it.
Finally, Section 4, Basketball Under the Microscope. Welcome to the WNBA's new era of scrutiny.
You can literally map this entire thing out step by step to see exactly how a modern sports controversy operates. It's predictable, yet it feels totally unstoppable. Step 1, you've got the on-court moment. In this case, just a 3-second collision during a fast-paced game. Step 2, the immediate social media reaction, fueled by player posts, instant replays, and fan outrage. Step 3, the influencer and commentator debate, where everyone from podcasters to alleged NBA superstars get dragged into the narrative. And finally, Step 4, the original basketball play is almost completely forgotten. What you're left with is a sprawling, heated argument about race, fairness, discipline, and a growing cultural divide. It is a wildly fascinating ecosystem of outrage.
So, welcome to the new reality for the league. It's the classic double-edged sword of attention. The WNBA is definitely no longer operating in the shadows. Thanks to massive audiences tuning in for stars like Clark, Cunningham, and Carrington, the league is seeing unprecedented, record-breaking growth. But with that incredible growth comes the reality that highly visible players instantly amplify any controversial moment. That increased attention acts like a relentless microscope. Every single action gets analyzed. Every comment gets dissected. A routine hard foul becomes a national conversation about players' safety. 3 seconds on the court can suddenly become the biggest story of the week, reaching millions of people in minutes. For the league, this attention means exponential growth. But, as we've seen, it also means intense, instant, and sometimes unforgiving scrutiny.
Which leaves us with this final, really critical thought to ponder. Physical basketball, intense rivalries, trash talk, and controversial calls, those are always going to exist. That's just the nature of competitive sports. But as the WNBA spotlight burns brighter than literally ever before, can the league handle its explosive growth without allowing controversy to completely define it? Can they keep the global conversation focused on the game itself? Or is every single hard foul and social media post destined to turn into a sprawling cultural war? These players came to compete, to win, and to build the future of their sport. But as the spotlight grows, everyone standing under it has to be ready for the consequences. So, I'll leave you with this. How does a league protect its actual game when the world is so incredibly eager to argue about everything else surrounding it? Think about that the next time you scroll past a viral sports headline. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes on the court, because the next massive story is always just one play away.